Hey guys, it's Bradley back in the brewery. Today we are going to do a full setup, my setup on my Brewtools B80 Pro. A similar setup would also work on the 40 or the 150. I'm going to demonstrate installing all of the valves, everything. Show you the directions of flow and how I'm doing it. This is by no means an official tutorial sanctioned by Brewtools. This is just me trying to help you guys out. So stick around, we're gonna get right into it. All right guys, before we get started, we're gonna go over the components I am using in my setup. This is an approximate list, may not be 100%, but I think I'm pretty accurate in my counts here. So there are 24 tri-clamps, 25 tri-clamp gaskets. There are 4 three-way valves, 2 adjustable dip tubes, a couple of 45s in this assembly I was too lazy to take apart, as well as 2 90s, 1 T, 1 oxygenation stone holder. I have still not been able to find my oxygenation stone. I need to get one. 2 tri-clamp to tri-clamp sensor holders, 4 caps, 1 sight glass, a total of 8 19mm hose barbs. 2 of them are not shown here. They are on the hoses to hook up the water supply to my counterflow chiller. 1 counterflow chiller not shown, and 2 Brewtools drip trays. I love these things. All right, so the first thing you want to do when you get your system is flip it over and check all of these connections for leaks around this other 3-way valve. Check here the threads. Just make sure it's all nice and tight. It says that in the manual. My system differs in one way. My setup, factory, they come with this guy. I opted to have a tri-clamp and a little extender pipe because I want to be able to take off my hoses a little bit easier. My big old paws through this hole. Didn't feel like messing with it. One other thing to note here, when your system's flipped over, this is the direction of flow. There's an arrow on the pump indicating direction of flow, right? So intake is here, the output is here. And you can either go through the center or out to the side discharge. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All right guys, so here we have the adjustable dip tube and the adjuster. The dip tube gets a little bit of this lube. Just kind of smear it on there. You need to put it in from the inside of the vessel. So excuse me while I block the camera with my big old fat arm. All right, so we'll let that hang there. So next, you would put a seal on this, on the intake port, your adjustable dip tube on there, your adjustable dip tube holder, we'll call this piece. Get your tri-clamp. Get that on there. Then on my setup, I go straight in to the 3-way valve. That gets a gasket. And a tri-clamp. Make sure that's nice and tight. This is the inlet you would use when sparging. So I always keep this one capped. Any open port, you never know when you'll be doing something else and you'll make a mess or even worse, burn yourself. So get that guy clamped on there. The next piece will be the adjustable, or the the sensor, the tri-clamp to sensor holder. Cool thing about this guy is it's toolless now with this new design, so you don't need a wrench, which is great. We don't like using tools if we don't have to. Doesn't have to be crazy tight. Another gasket. And a tri-clamp. So next up, we will connect this intake hose to the valve and to the intake of the pump. So get your tri-clamp gasket and put it on. This is all intake side. My advice, leave this a little loose until you get stuff finalized. Lastly, this guy right here just goes on there. If you don't have the piece I'm using here, you would basically just push this hose on the barb. And you would save money because you wouldn't have as much tri-clamps purchased, but it wouldn't be as shiny, so it wouldn't be as cool. So that is the intake side assembled. This adjusts the dip tube, right? So, and this is the three-way valve. You can either select it to disparage. All right, now we are at the left side of the machine. This is the output port. There's two output options, one being this lower port or the center pipe. This is the input to that Whirlpool dip tube right here. So it comes out and goes wherever you want. So I typically, well, no, I don't typically, I always start here on my setup with the sight glass right here. The beauty of Brewtools is you can really put this stuff however you want. This is just how I use it, how I'm familiar. So that is how we are assembling it. So it doesn't have to be crazy tight, but tight enough. I install the first of many three-way valves. And if your table's on casters, you should probably lock it. So that's a three-way valve on there tight enough for now. Then I usually put a 90 here. But we will leave this one very loose so I can finagle it into place. Next, I come in with another tri-clamp, gasket, and three-way valve, and I hang it right off this other three-way valve. Just like so. Again, I'll leave it loose enough to where I can adjust it for now. I'll tighten everything up once I'm finished. Then I'll come in with a cap and a gasket and another tri-clamp. This is the discharge port. That's how I get my wart out in this present configuration, how I clean. But I like to keep it capped when nothing's hooked to it. Next up, I'll install my other adjustable dip tube so I can dial in my Whirlpool. Spot on every time. The same process as before. Next, I'll install a fourth three-way valve. Like so. This valve will let me, determine if I'm whirlpooling or if I want to bypass the that and go. Next up, we install my bypass piece. You guys could use a hose and some hose barbs to go between here or whatever you want, but I use a 90, two 45s, two tri-clamps, two gaskets for the tri-clamps. This guy goes on relatively easily. So you want this guy to leave it very loose so you get everything lined up the way you want. And then carefully move it back, get it in the gasket, and slide it into place. One of the things I like about this bypass this way, it really makes everything a lot more rigid. It really ties everything together. It makes it solid. And in my world, solid is great. So I've tightened most of these up because it's in its pretty final set here. So now we're looking at the mythical multi-valve setup. Next, I will get ready to install my tri-clamp to tri-clamp sensor holder or the optional coolant loop temperature probe. So that's also an extra item that doesn't come with the system. So we'll just get this. Right on there. So now we know temperature of the wort coming from the counterflow chiller, also from the oxygenation setup. Next up, the T for the oxygenation setup, tri-clamp, you guessed it, tri-clamp gasket. And then next you would either put the oxygenation stone, but for now I like to keep mine capped and I put the stone in obviously when I'm ready to use it. So a gasket and a cap, and just tighten it down. All right, now it's time to hook up the chiller. All right, so next we're going to hook the hoses to the counterflow chiller. I would recommend getting these hoses to a length that you are comfortable with. It's really going to help figure out losses. All right. So there's a seal. And we're hooking it to that 90. All right, and I go under this bypass setup. Get my seal on the counterflow chiller tri-clamp flange. Two together, put a tri-clamp on it, and lock it down. I've found that these hose barbs are really good. I've not had one pop off. As long as you don't have an excessive bend in your hose. If you have a really aggressive bend, then you may have one come off. So you could clamp them or you could not clamp them. Really up to you. So next we come over, we get the other tri-clamp gasket, hose and hose barb. On there. We come way down here to this side, gentle bend in my hose, one last gasket and tri-clamp. And that is it. So then you would hook up here your water lines. I usually go cold in from the bottom, and then the discharge is here. Whether that's right or not, I don't know, but that's how I have mine hooked up. So now let's discuss general operation of all of these valves, because it can be a little daunting, even for me at times. If you're new, I imagine very daunting. All right, so let's go over operation of the valves. This is the fun part. So we'll start over here on the right side. That is where everything comes into the pump. You also have the control for the built-in valve here. So right now, this valve is fully open with the handle this way. So if I wanted to run through the pump, face the handle that way, and it is going through the pump. This one in the lower position, it's bypassing the center pipe and running straight through the pump, and it would be coming out over here at this, through the sight glass into this valve. Like I said, right now this valve is fully open. So if I want to send it through the counterflow chiller, it'll take that path there. But what if you want to bypass? So then you'll just flip it like that, and it's going to come through here into the bypass. The bypass valve needs to be set to accept it. So that would be that way. Now it's going into the bypass, set the return, this other valve this way, and it's going in to a whirlpool. So now, if you're done whirlpooling, take this upper valve, flip it this way. Now it's a straight shot. You've bypassed this. Through your bypass, put this guy all the way over to this side on the lower valve. Now you're going out, discharging to your fermenter or dumping dirty water or what have you. All right, so then you want to install your malt pipe. Like so. That was a little noisy, I imagine. So then you have your center pipe, and Brewtools recommends that you lube these O-rings, top and bottom, but first we will install the bottom screen. This is the finer screen. Odd note, Brewtools upgraded this, I believe. This is stouter than my other one. So it's nice to see them quietly do that. So whoop, drop that in there. So then simply take some lube and lube up the shaft. and also really just work it in there really good, you know. Really, it's all about technique here, gentlemen. So then slide that guy down. And that is a very nice, very satisfying fit. You saw, hopefully you caught, it really pinched that screen down tight. All right. So this upper guy too, we'll use a little lube on him. And really just work it in there. And that sits just like that. Last but not least, there is another seal in here. That one's gonna stop you from filling that center pipe with wort. And really, same thing, technique is key. Get that guy on there. And that is it. That is very firmly affixed. I'm really happy. All right, everyone, thank you for sticking around through my whole messy tutorial, my sausage fingers stumbling around. I'm sure it was entertaining. So I hope everyone understands kind of better what's going on, how the valves are used. This is just one of many options for your setup. You could use less stainless, you could use a lot more stainless, whatever you want. That's the beauty of this system. That's why I've spent my hard-earned money on it. And yeah, it's great. So as always, guys, this has been Bradley. Remember, home brewing is good. Please like and subscribe.